Welcome back to another exciting week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. I'm Drury, that's Clarkey, and we're very pleased to be joined this week by a great special guest. Clarkey hitting up the celebrity dinners. He's bringing in all the big guns here. And who better to talk about the impending NHL trade deadline day than a man who has experience running a trade deadline day for an NHL team. You know this guy from the Fan 590, multiple broadcasting duties, including Blue and White Tonight and SiriusXM NHL Network. He is the former general manager of Clarkey's Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe they're your Toronto Maple Leafs. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very pleased to welcome back our friend Gord Stellick. Gord, how are you?
Ryan, I'm great. Good to see Clarkey. And we were at the Conn Smythe Sports Celebrity Dinner, and always a great evening. And it's funny, it was a lot of fun. Great couple of days when you're working for an NHL team on trade deadline. But I'll tell you, Ryan, when Chris and I were there the first few years at the Fan, we were the only game in town for trade deadline. TSN wasn't doing it yet. Sportsnet hadn't started. So there was about 2 or 3 years where it was a buzz that's never been replicated. So a lot of fond memories.
And we probably got our news from Sports Ticker.
Well, we actually were getting. I can remember we had Sam Rosen from New York on as a guest.
Yeah.
Then he called back later to tell us Tony Amonte had been traded, and then Tim Bernhardt, our scout, called. Tim Bernhardt from Dallas, just because we were trying to figure some Dallas trade out. And then anyway, on and on and on. And then a few years later, they're doing their big trade deadline shows. But we were the only game in town for a couple of years when all sports radio was relatively new. And man, what a buzz that was. And like I said, now it's a little more you feed the beast, and quite often now on the actual trade deadline day, not as much is actually happening on that day with the cap and other things that come into play.
Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday, March 6th, before the 3 p.m. deadline on the 7th. But, Gord, you kind of touched on it. You've seen both sides of the insanity of the day, both from a broadcasting perspective, particularly those early days at the Fan when you were the only game in town, and also from a high-level executive side. I mean, does it get higher than being the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Walk me through the different kinds of feelings of both roles, being a member of the media and being the general manager of arguably the most popular NHL property out there.
Well, on the GM side, it's kind of your last chance to take a kick at it, to kind of mold your roster, whether it's one to make a push for the playoffs or have success in the playoffs, or about trading something away and getting some futures in return. So I think we all work towards deadlines. That's always been our nature, right? Deadlines are what we seem to work. So after that, it's kind of a good, you shut the door, and that's the team for the rest of the year. So the dialogue with the other general managers, and anytime you saw them during the year or talked to them on the phone, you'd always say, hey, you thinking of doing anything? Anybody on our team you like? And we said about your team, you didn't want to show all your cards, but you kind of had a bit of an ongoing card game like that. And then you honed it in as you got close to trade deadline. Now, my one trade that I think the most favorably of was a goaltender named Ken Reggett, traded for 2 first-round picks to the Philadelphia Flyers. So I had 3 GMs that I knew were interested: David Poyle in Washington, Jerry Meehan in Buffalo, and Bobby Clark in Philadelphia. So that was kind of the neat process the last number of days, trying to get to a resolution one way or another. You could get burned too if you overplay your hand and they find something else. So it's an interesting game there. And then on the media side, you don't get the scoops anymore. People have got fired from organizations for giving scoops. Okay, you used to get scoops a little bit more, and of course now with social media, so much is out. It's just so different. Everybody finds out like 1 second later. So back then, and Clarkey as the executive producer in that, everyone worked their sources. Some sources were really good. Some were kind of lame, but as long as you had a source, you could kind of, get out and talk about it. And then the excitement was when you landed somebody that was involved in the trade that came on your radio show, which they really don't do anymore. They all do media availability after the deadline. So, and both of them were like you're doing the shows by the seat of your pants with all kinds of people. You never know what to expect. You never know what trade's going to happen. You never know what guest is going to come next. And I like that kind of organized chaos every time from time to time.
Gord, when you look at, obviously the topic du jour right now is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And as we sit here and talk to you, their lack of activity so far, surrounded by division rivals that have been extremely busy. Tampa Bay loading up. They bring back Yanni Gord. They get Oliver Bjorkstrand in the fold. Julian Brisebois, he's just handing out first-round picks. He doesn't care. I mean, I don't think they have a first-round pick till 2029 now.
Draft schmaft.
And draft schmaft. And then you look at Florida and they continue to wheel and deal, notably adding Seth Jones. The Vegas Golden Knights just made a big move, bringing Riley Smith back, who just beat the Maple Leafs the other night. Like, when you look at this Leafs team, and we've talked for a long time about they're strapped by the cap, they're too top heavy. As you look at this roster right now, what would you be targeting specifically if you were Brad Treliving right now?
Well, not a big splash, because they did that with Ryan O'Reilly. They did that with Nick Foligno. They're big splashes. They're guys that, Toronto has made the playoffs 8 consecutive seasons. And that's tied with Boston for the longest current streak. And Boston, there's a good chance they won't make it. So Toronto will be the only team to have made it 9 consecutive seasons. So Tampa Bay made the final 3 years in a row, won the Stanley Cup, 2 of them. Toronto traded first-round picks and didn't get anything out of it. So, I mean, I just see that they're looking for a depth centerman and a right-handed shot defenseman. And I know it's not sexy. But it's the Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Willie Nylanders of the world that have to lead them deeper into the playoffs. So that's where I see it. The whole Ryan about the pressure. You can feel pressure, but you shouldn't. I get it, because right now all the big trades have been from Western Conference teams to Eastern Conference teams. But you've got to have a game plan that you have about your team. And even though you mentioned those acquisitions to other divisional rivals, you can't make a trade just predicated on that pressure.
So what you're saying is you don't think Mikko Rantanen will be a Toronto Maple Leaf?
Well, Kipper says, well, they never quite said that, but there's an interesting one, because that is such a jewel. That is such a jewel. And whoever is going to get him, I believe, even though he has said, now he's probably at this point can't turn around and say, I'm not going to commit to a new contract to Carolina, and then all of a sudden say I'm going to commit to Toronto or somebody else. So you're taking the risk you're going to lose him as a UFA. Clarkey, that's really this is kind of uncharted waters. A guy like that being traded and then apparently being available again. So we're going to see if Carolina feels there's a trade that can mitigate what they gave up to Colorado, or if it's not enough, take a run with them.
Mm-hmm. And the word is, Matthew Nyes is the word that they want back. Who knows at the end of the day? But if the Leafs can't re-sign, or if they can't get a deal in place before the deal is made, the trade is made, I don't know. I wouldn't give up Matthew Nyes.
No, I wouldn't either. Clarkey, I remember in whatever the year, I think it was 2000, before Rob Blake got traded from Los Angeles to Colorado, and the Leafs had a trade deadline deal in place with the Kings, but Rob Blake would not agree to a contract beyond that year. And he, as we know, he stayed with Colorado, had a lot of success there. And that's the reason I forget the package, but it was pretty substantial. And I agreed with them, so in that case, if the guy's coming as a hired gun, there's a certain value. If the player's coming and they want more when he's a hired gun because you think you might sign him, well, you got to weigh those factors, what your chances are. But I agreed with the Rob Blake decision back then. And to me, you can't give up the farm for a unsigned Mikko Rantanen.
And at the end of the day, how could you possibly get a contract together with this guy in 24 hours? I don't know.
What's weird is that, Carolina didn't have one in place before. Now, you obviously it's called tampering, but there's ways to get around it. And, Clarkey and Ryan, every trade, golly gee darn, Marcus Pettersson goes to Vancouver and he signs a 6-year contract a day later. Even when Cooley came to New York Rangers, he signs it. So it's like you're talking to someone and you go, okay, through a third party, said hypothetically, if we acquire you, whatever. So the lay of the land. And You could tell by, first of all, man, you talk about he was gobsmacked, and so was Nathan McKinnon, so was Jared Bednar. I mean, they were quite emotional about that trade. So you knew nothing had been discussed, and that's the chance you took. They took it last year with Jake Ensel. They said after the trade they felt good about that it wasn't going to happen again, like Gensel leaving. But then you find out later on, it very well could be the case again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Clarkey, if you're aware of this news already, but the Maple Leafs have placed Ryan Reeves on waivers.
Oh, I'm well aware of that.
For the purpose of trade. Yeah, really. That'd free up about 1.38 million, I believe. You know, Gord, as you look at this Leafs roster, there are a lot of it's the Maple Leafs. There's going to be a lot of different takes from a lot of different angles, especially in our world in media. As you look at them right now, and I kind of agree with you in the sense of not making like a big splash, like a Rantanen type deal. And the impetus there would be because they're already supposed to have enough big splash players on this roster to do damage in the playoffs. The problem is that when you make the playoffs 8 straight years and the big splash guys go kerplunk and don't make any ripples in the water, you're kind of dead to rights. If they were to go out in the first round again, barring whatever Brad Treliving is going to do something either during this conversation or after, if they go out again in the first round, like, what would you do if you were a general manager? Mitch Marner doesn't have a contract. Neither does John Tavares. Do you bring one back? Do you bring both back? Do you let them both go? Like, what would you be thinking in mid-April? The Leafs are out in the first round in 6 or 7 games. What would you be thinking?
Well, first I'm a glass half full guy, so I'd be on the positive side that finally, they have some success. Because you're right, they're the one, like, you know, Carolina and Winnipeg are somewhat similar cases that they've not had playoff success commensurate with their regular season success. But the Leafs are in a class of their own. I mean, it could affect the Tavares situation. I mean, Mitch Marner's a guy you're not going to want to give up. Brendan Shanahan was at, I'm talking now, what would it be? When was COVID? 2020. So 2020, I was at a function with Brendan Shanahan. That actually was all the milk guys. Must have gone well because they advertise now on the sweater. So anyways, there's like 1,000 people at the Royal York or whatever. And someone asked that question about yet another disappointing playoff exit. And he goes, well, I know this isn't the sexy answer. I know it's not what you want to hear, but you have to believe in the process and do it again. Well, last year, it was very different. Sheldon Keefe paid a price. Keith Pelly's there, and even Brendan Shanahan acknowledged we can't keep having this happen. So I'll talk to you about it when it happens. You're kind of stuck. You've doubled down on those elite players. Boy, in Brad Treliving's case, you had I guess Jake McCabe was a Dubas trade, I think. Anyway, but you had McCabe, and then you had Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Chris Tanev. You added 3 really good defensemen the last couple of years. So, oh my God, I'm already like saying it. It's kind of like Buffalo Sabre fans are saying it, except it's the regular season. How did we get here again? So that's the point is, never mind winning the Hart Trophy or whatever, have Leaf players in contention for the Conn Smythe Trophy because most valuable player in the playoffs, because nobody's really had a good playoff individually or as a team. And I'm going to keep my optimism for another year.
God help me.
Clarkey, I think based on, what Gord just outlined, they kind of have to, because they have doubled down on Austin Matthews and William Nylander in the very least.
Yeah.
Morgan Riley still got a lot of term, but it'll be very interesting what they decide to do if, disaster strikes again and they go out. Because I don't know. It's a dicey situation. Clarkey, is there anybody in particular as a fan that you're looking at that you're like, man, I would really like the Leafs to go after that guy?
Well, I do want, I'm not a huge, as you know, Ryan Braden Shen fan, but that is personal. Nothing the way, just an experience I had with him on draft day. But besides the point, I heard he's a great guy. That's fine. He's a good player. But for what they would have to give up for him, from what I hear St. Louis wants, Gord, is this guy worth it?
No. And it is funny about when you have one interaction with an individual. Mm-hmm. And I got a couple that are known as really good people as well. But, I just remember, and I think just in life in general, it's always something we all should be conscious about. But no, too much to give up for Braden Shen, and
I agree.
And so I'm with Clarkey there. By the way, Ryan, maybe I'll say, maybe you're right in saying about my optimism, my blind optimism for the Toronto Maple Leafs for another season.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, like it's one of those things that's so tricky, right, Clarkey? Because like we've beat this over the head for years.
No, but to me,
these guys are good.
This is the easier off season to move on because you have two guys whose contracts are and
simply because of that.
If Mikko Rantanen hits the market on July 1st and you see Mitch Marner, who would you pick?
Mikko Rantanen, myself. Because I've seen that guy, because I've seen, like, it's one of those things. And again, Gord, like, I don't fault you for your blind optimism, because these guys are really talented.
They are talented, but what have they done?
Impossible
when it matters.
But that's just it, though. It's not impossible to imagine that coalescing into a great playoff run, because you see the talent that's there. It's just that, Clarkey, if you're pointing a gun at me and saying Mitch or Mikko, I have to go with what I've seen. And as much as I love the creativity and the dynamism of Mitch Marner, I've seen Mikko Rantanen be a killer in the playoffs and win a Stanley Cup. He could have arguably been the Conn Smythe winner that year. It's just his teammate did a little more, which is crazy to say. I've not seen Mitch Marner do that. So it's a difficult thing. I don't know what your take is on that, Gord, but I mean, like, I'm a Rantanen guy all day, despite his struggles.
What about both?
Right now.
What about, you got Tavares' $11 million.
Yeah,
he's out of there. The guy they miss is Nazem Kadri. I mean, that was the spice they needed. And and Ryan, you were following. Clarkey and I were working on the media side, like the Pat Quinn Leaf teams with Gary Roberts and Darcy Tucker to go along with Matt Sundin and all that. And of course, back in Pat Burns runs for a couple of years, like they don't have enough of that spice. That's what I do like what Matthew Nyes did. The other night. And that's why, in some ways, the Matt Martins and Ryan Reeves of the world and Wayne Simmons really haven't been the great fit, because you need more guys that, the Tom Wilsons or whatever that can do it. So, but the one thing they have this year is the best depth goaltending, I believe, in a long, long time. And their goaltending, really their lack of scoring has been their biggest problem. Mm-hmm. But the goaltending back like the Curtis Joseph, Ed Belfour area, it's 6 years. That's why the Ottawa Senators, every year they did to the Ottawa Senators what teams like Boston and Tampa Bay have done to the Leafs the last number of years. So they have that. That's the one thing that's different this year is the goaltending.
And
their
you look at,
it's been really good.
It has been, except the other night. But anyway, when you look at who that first round opponent is, and it could be anybody, but even finishing first and getting a wild card, they'll probably finish first and get the Rangers, and the Rangers could be hot, like the Rangers, President's Trophy winner last year. I'm just saying it's not going to be easy, no matter what, no matter where you finish. It's not going to be easy. You could get the Sens. They haven't lost to the Sens in the playoffs.
The other part
is not going to be easy.
The couple of years where it should have been. I could use an expletive, but they expleted that away. Like the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh, no question.
And the Montreal Canadiens.
100%.
So you had that twice. You had a 3-1 lead over Montreal. So anyway, that's water under the bridge. In the West, holy mackerel. You look at the Dallas Stars. What did they have? Bang, bang, bang. So Edmonton was their third team. So they had Vegas first round. They had Colorado second round. They get to the third round. They got Edmonton. It's a bigger dog's breakfast in the Western Conference. So there's about 11. There seem to be about 11 teams that I think is the number that could be a legitimate Stanley Cup contenders to one way or another. And it's going to be no cakewalk whichever you start. The 2 years that it looked like it was set up well for them, they blew it.
That's right. And when I hear that, though, that there's so many contenders, a trade on deadline day could put a team over the top. But we'll see. Maybe they'll reunite the Tanev brothers.
He's out there.
Brandon
out there too.
Put a team over the top, but he's the kind of player who this town would love, right?
Well, he's a guy that would be a great depth piece that would bump somebody certainly out of this lineup.
So I've done it. Gord? Your buddy Coolius has done it a few times, Clarkey. The Canadian Macedonian.
We're not buddies anymore.
Oh,
Kidding.
we're not getting into that.
Say that again? He did what?
I was saying the Tanev brothers, your buddy, our buddy Coolius has done it. I've done MC the Canadian Macedonian Charity Golf Tournament in July. The Tanev brothers show up. Steven Stamkos' father and uncle show up, and they have lots of Stamkos stuff, to auction off. So the very passionate and very large Toronto Canadian Macedonian population would be thrilled to double down on the Tanev brothers. They're thrilled that they've come the last number of years, whatever team they were playing for.
I think it's going to happen.
It very well could, and he would be the type of guy, you're right, that the Leafs would love, because, I mean, you say what you will about Hogtown and their ups and downs with their star players. Like, they love those lunch pail guys, and, like, you referenced some of the all-timers for them there. Like, when I was a kid, like, I saw a lot more Darcy Tucker jerseys than you would almost see Sundin jerseys. Like, people love that guy, and he was the most Kadri-esque player before Kadri showed up, and they were like, well, he got suspended a few times. We got to get rid of him too much. Back then, like, if you would have walked into the room and been like, Pat, we got to trade Darcy Tucker. He's just he's a little too loose. Pat Quinn would have been like, there's absolutely no way I'm trading Darcy Tucker. And
they had Shane Corson a couple of years, and they had Ty Domi as well.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Roberts had a screw loose too. Stumpy Thomas, like, that guy'd stick you in the face if you got under his skin. Like, they just had the right mix of really talented players, but also guys that would really get under your skin or outright put you through the wall. And that's been a talking point for a long time about this team. Like, do their star players do that? I don't really think so. But we'll see. They're going to get another run at it, and I'll be interested to see what Brad does. When you look at the rest, like you're talking, there's a lot of contenders out there. There's a lot of teams with plenty of good players, some depth here, holes that need to be filled on others. When you look at the contenders in your mind in the East and the West, are there some teams that come to mind for you based on what you've seen this year that are a cut above some others?
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. Well, first of all, Edmonton went to Game 7 last year. Vegas won a Stanley Cup. Colorado slipped back a bit, but they won a Stanley Cup. You also, the Dallas Stars haven't won, but they may be the best team in the NHL. Maybe the best team in the West. The Winnipeg Jets could be the best team. So, I mean, it keeps going on and on and on about these kind of elite teams. And that's why you've seen Dallas make a move. They made a typical trade deadline move with San Jose. They still have cap space. Edmonton, boy, oh boy. I mean, they did make the trade with Boston. They believe in their goaltending. They seem to believe in their team. It's not been a very good couple of weeks for them. So to answer your question, I guess, Ryan, I am curious because right now it's been West going East as far as the big trades have been. And then the St. Louis Blues were looked to be big sellers, but they may end up being a big buyer, making the splash. I mean, they've had kind of the biggest 180 in the last, say, 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're right on the bubble. And I mean, I don't know if the Colton Parayko injury news will maybe change Doug Armstrong's plans, but he's a guy that seems to kind of stick to his guns, and they're still deep enough that they could, at the bottom of the Western Conference, they could certainly still squeak in. I mean, they're no worse than some of the teams that they're fighting with. I think it's a lot more wide open in the East, though. I mean, my Capitals are in cruise control, and it's shocking still. I can't believe they're in first place. But you look at a team like that, and there's a lot of talk that Chris Patrick might not even make a move because he doesn't want to upset the chemistry. Like, there's teams out there like that should be buyers that maybe won't.
Well, and they have Ryan Leonard coming that looks like he can step into the NHL right away. I wonder, Ryan and Clarkey, about like Detroit, Ottawa, Columbus. Okay, three teams that haven't been in the playoffs for a while. What a big surprise Columbus is. They're getting healthy, but they still have some injuries, and I mean they're there. They're there. I think this is going to carry on until game number 82. I love it. I love this incredible glut of playoff teams, around the bubble for the final 2 or 3 playoff spots in the East. So, I kind of wonder if they might make a trade, like if that one player makes a difference from just making it into the playoffs, that's huge. So I'm interested to see what these teams do by 3 p.m. on Friday.
Columbus, man, what a story. Like, I'm actively rooting for them to make the playoffs because it would just be such a feel-good story. Like, where they are in the standings is already great considering what that franchise has been through coming into this season. But if they were to make the playoffs, like, they'd have to hold the roof down in Nationwide game 1 there. Like, that place would go absolutely bonkers, and rightly so. Among the players that are still on the trade bait board, and there are a lot of big names out there, who do you think, Gord, who springs to mind as the most likely in your mind to potentially move by tomorrow?
Well, okay, so a few of them have, but like we mentioned, some trades have been happening. The Brock Nelson thing was really interesting on the island. Like, that was really, and the Islanders are still kind of around there too. And who knows what Lou Lamoriello is thinking, but just his give Shannon Hogan credit for asking the question. That kind of emotion that it was kind of neat. I think Scott Lawton is the perfect kind of piece to move from Philadelphia. Pittsburgh, Rickard Rakell. It seems like he was going to be traded, but now they're saying, hey, if Sidney Crosby's staying, Rakell's pretty good value, 3 years left at $6 million. So, we even though I can't, you got to go for the Cup or be rebuilding. They're going to be stuck in the mushy middle, I believe. So, I mean, those are some of the players out there. And then you kind of wonder the Thomas Hertl type surprise that happened last year on deadline day, or are there more Mikko Rantanen? Maybe not the player quite of that caliber. Geez, Philadelphia, Calgary, that was a hockey trade. Frost and Farabee, going, and that was a hockey trade as well, which we normally don't have. So I'm hoping we get a few more of those kind of pleasant surprises or action, whatever term you want to use.
You touched on the Penguins. What do you make of them acquiring Luke Schenn and trading Michael Bunting? Like, it just seemed weird.
Yeah, I don't get what they're doing. And when they talked about they've got no youth. They don't have any youth.
I know, and unless they think they can flip Schenn, but
it's funny.
They should.
Kyle Dubas was, Paul Beeston's son David Beeston was running that team for the Fenway Sports Group, and I think he thought like that Kyle Dubas was going to be a Theo Epstein hockey clone, and they expected to battle for another playoff again, and it's not happening. And people in Pittsburgh get pissed when you talk about Sidney Crosby playing elsewhere, but I just say it selfishly. I respect him. Why he can live where he wants to live. I get it, but I want to see our best players going deep in the playoffs. So is the last we're going to see a Sid in meaningful games next year's Olympics? I don't know.
Yeah, no, what's right for that franchise is to trade him 1,000% in my mind.
Well, yeah. I get the respect they're showing him, but at some point, like he was just in Colorado, they lost 4-1. Maybe did it kind of hit him that, hey, my buddy Nathan and we played together and we hang in the summer. We played together in the four. I don't know, but anyway, we'll see.
On the subject of Sid, I'll drive Clarkey a little crazy with this. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN tweeted earlier today, tired. Sidney Crosby to the Colorado Avalanche to play with Nate McKinnon. Under it, he tweeted, wired Sidney Crosby to the Capitals to play with Ovi. Now, let's rein the silliness in. I could never see that happening. I'm just saying, if it did, and here's what it is with the Caps this year, too. They've been quietly, running along with this surprising season. They've been very quiet in trade rumors. And to me, that kind of signals almost, Gord, that maybe they'll be the team to make that Hertl-esque surprise move, because they're not really being talked about on being in on anybody really right now.
Yeah, I was saying that this morning on my NHL Morning Skate Show, because they're a team that's done the most tinkering, for want of a better word. There is a better word, I guess, but just and they kind of got forced it with Backstrom, Kuznetsov, and TJ Oshie's situations, and just very quietly they added some pieces, and the Pierre-Luc Dubois. There's one. Is there one? Is there one like that tomorrow? That was a big eye opener when that happened, and other guys like Tom Wilson stepped up to a bigger role, and just little. And of course, goaltending's huge, right? The goaltending's been huge, but yeah. And so, is there another one? Why not the Washington Capitals? The East is the weaker conference, so if you can get that one player, I doubt it'll be Sid, like you said. But quite like sleeping dogs lie and then they jump.
And your buddy, who you have on your show all the time, Brucey Boudreau. I love the fact that he says if the Leafs played the Caps in the Eastern Final, he'll be working for the Caps broadcast, but cheering for the Leafs. So I love that. But isn't that a guy? Fine. And like when the Leafs, when he was up and down all the time, was it Newmarket in Toronto? Anyway, wherever he was, he kept going up and down to the minors. If there just seems like there's a guy who the Leafs could use as a fourth coach or something, it would be him.
Yeah, I agree. They had Paul McLean in that documentary. Whatever. Yeah. I think there's some value, a special kind of value that he brings. I don't think Craig Berube would feel threatened because he was a former head coach and whatever. But I think Clarkey that there's just about like knowing the lay of the land, and people will talk about Cito coming back a second time or John Gibbons coming back a second time, and they were the head guy, which Bruce wouldn't be. No. But yeah, I think big time. I think it's one of those little things that would be a big thing.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, in the very least, a power play specialist, right? Bruce, there it is. He knows how to run a power play. I'll tell you that right now from experience. Quickly before we let you go, Gord, I have to get your take on this. It's the biggest talking point in the game right now. A guy that Brucey used to coach. Ovi's 10 away, man. Like, can you believe it?
Well, I do now. Did I believe it originally? No, I just thought, and a lot of it, he was drafted in 2004, and then there was the lockout. And the rule changes helped get 50 goal scorers back again. That Wayne Gretzky's era, goals were extremely plentiful, okay? And goaltending, the caliber was nowhere close. But as Wayne Gretzky said a couple of years ago when we had him on our show, his durability's been phenomenal. And this year, that injury is he said, very few and far between. He's going through the front door on a good team. I like that. I was worried it'd be a sideshow that you go, Capitals lose 8-1, but Ovi scores. No, instead, the Caps are relevant. I like even that Spencer Carberry talking about, and this is part of luxury when you're in the playoffs, that when it gets to the tying goal and the breaking goal, that he's thinking he's not going to put him out on empty net situations, because that's, it should be a real goal. Mm-hmm. So, I love it. I give him full marks. I thought he was going to get it, but I thought it was going to drag on. And boy, oh boy, he's been a house on fire. It's been great to see.
It's fun stuff, man. Ovi, 10 away. Can't believe it. He is Gord Stellick. You can catch him, of course, on Blue and White tonight. You can catch him all place, including SiriusXM NHL Network. And, of course, you should check his book out, Stellictricity. I'm looking at my copy over on the shelf right now. Pick up Stellictricity. There's a lot of great stories in there. He's great for those. Gord, thanks so much for doing this, my friend.
Ryan, Clarkey, real pleasure. Anyway, we'll see what happens by Friday at 3 p.m.
Exciting stuff, my friend. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, Clarkey and I will continue to break down what we would maybe like to see some teams do at the deadline. That's next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks so much to our friend Gord Stellick. Of course, you can catch him on NHL, SiriusXM, NHL Network. You can catch him on The Fan. You can catch him on Blue and White tonight as well. The Leafs pregame and postgame shows.
He scared me.
He scared you? What do you mean?
Yeah. Suggesting to run it back again with these guys if they lose.
Oh. Well, he did.
Dude, they can't do that. There's no way they can do that.
He did. Well, there is a way because they keep doing it. So we know there is a way.
There's two guys who, as I said, it's easier this year to not do it. And there's no way. They're going to spend that money elsewhere.
And I've said before, much to the chagrin of our friend Steve Papp out west, who we'll check in with Steve again before the playoffs, get a lay of the land in the referee world, because I know that's your favorite.
Wow. And, look who got in trouble with the refs again this week. Our old buddy Sheldon Keefe.
For good reason, though. I support what he did. I would have been pissed off, too. That's my best player going down on a clear interference penalty.
Who was the ref?
I can't tell you who the ref was in that game.
Wasn't it Wes McCauley?
I'm not sure.
I think it was.
We
need to find this out. I think it was. And we know the history. Sure.
I'm not sure because that was a Knights Devils game, and then Wes was doing the Leafs Vegas game on Wednesday. I don't know. I don't know if it was him, but yes, people are aware of that wonky history for sure. Anyway, to the chagrin of my friend Steve Papp out west.
Yeah.
I maintain that I would still walk away from Tavares for any money. I wouldn't bring him back for $850,000. It will continue to diminish, and there are younger players who are going to age better over a contract you sign with them than what John Tavares provides. I'm sorry. Like, there will be. And that's looking ahead to free agency, but the Leafs, like, they can't do this thing because for years, and I've heard you say it 100 times on this show, Clarkey. Well, they're strapped by the cap because they signed all these contracts and they thought it was going to go up. Well, now over the next couple of years, that excuse is going to diminish pretty quickly.
100%.
Because the cap's going up significantly. So they can't do this thing again where because the cap goes up and Mitch Marner stays, now Mitch is making 16. And when Austin resigns in 4 or 5 years, it's 18. Like, they can't take these 4 guys and continue to go like this against the top of the cap. They have to use this space responsibly and actually build a team. And on that notion, I look around at what's out there. Scott Lawton, yeah, that'd be a great ad.
Yeah, but what are you going to give up for Scott Lawton? Just tell me that. It better not be a number 1 pick.
I would say a 2nd-round pick and maybe a prospect would probably get it done for you. Like, is a second and Ben Danford something? You know, that would intrigue.
To me isn't that good to give up that.
What do you
That's
mean,
my opinion.
though? Because you look at his stats or you watch the way he plays?
I've watched
because
the way he plays.
You have to keep in mind what he does on the ice.
He's a Toronto guy too, right? I think he's a Toronto.
Believe so.
Ontario.
Believe he's from around like the Southern Ontario area. Not that matters.
Hey, I think Max Domi is a good player too. With the way I watch him play.
Boy,
but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't put up any numbers.
I look at Max. I was chatting with our friend Steve Dangle actually last night, who, again, Steve has been very kind to me on his OHL highlight of the week package. Steve is spreading the butter a little thin on me. It's very humbling. And we will talk with him, after the deadline. We're not going to do a show next week, by the way. I should get that out of the way now. March break. We need a break, okay? I know I just had one.
Didn't we just have a break?
Well, I know I just have, but producer Adam needs a break too. If anyone on this show,
producer Adam needs a break.
Anybody on the show deserves a break,
true.
He has to sit here for hours every week.
The provincial elections were really hard. That was a crazy week.
Yeah, you had to cover them. I had to cover them. It was a joke. I hated it. I was out till 11:30.
Yeah, I know. Can I just jump in here? Scott Lawton was born in Oakville. And Wes McCauley was reffing that game.
Told you.
Just so you know.
Producer,
the referees for that game were
producer. That's a good producer right there. Coming to the rescue. And I told you, it's Wes McCauley and Sheldon Keefe. He should never ref a game with Sheldon Keefe involved because he's biased and it's obvious.
It's to a point now where Gary and really more so Bill Daly and the competition committee. I believe who is it that why is his name escaping me that runs the reffing for the NHL now?
It's Stephen Walcom. Steve
Walcom. He needs to just be like, look, Wes, I think that you can't be doing Devils games. Now, and I'm not questioning Wes's integrity like Clarkey wants to. It's just the look.
How can you not?
Strange. I know what you mean.
I've watched too many Leaf games with him involved and Sheldon Keefe involved to know this guy has an agenda.
And I know what people who are big ref defenders will say. I understand. But look at some of the stuff that's gone on in Major League Baseball. They fired that umpire last year for having a sports book account.
What was the NHL ref? He does a blog now or whatever. They fired him when he admitted he was calling a penalty early in the game.
The hot mic thing, yeah.
Yeah.
My brain is mush right now. I can't remember who that was.
I don't remember.
But
he was from the East Coast. I know that much.
Yeah, but you look at stuff like that in other sports, that MLB thing, which is why, Max Scherzer came out and said that when he was on the competition committee, Max Scherzer actually brought up the fact that gambling being so closely tied with the league now means that we should get an automated ball strike zone in some form because it takes the power away from umpires.
Let's take 2 minutes here.
Okay.
Ball strike thing. It's my show. I can do whatever I want.
Go ahead. Lead us.
The challenge. What do you think? Why do we have to stop the game? Have the ref why can't it just be automatic in his headphones? Beep, strike, and nothing for a ball. So if they challenge it, he goes instantly, yes, that was a strike. You're right. I called it wrong. Why can't we have that? Why does it take time?
Dude, I don't know. It was Tim Peel, by the way.
Tim Peel,
who was the ref on the hot mic incident with Nashville.
Yes. From Nova Scotia.
I had to call a makeup penalty. Yes. I don't know, Clarkey, and that's a whole other thing. I think that eventually will come. Like 5 years from now, it's going to be a full machine beep. Like that's what it's going to be. I truly believe that.
Good.
I truly believe.
I said that 5 years ago on this very show.
And I agreed. I believe
since
you.
I said it 5 years ago.
I believe you. I look hockey. Though. Yeah, back to hockey. And my point being, though, and we got a little sidetracked there. My point being is that, I look at the pressure and I look at the situation that, your Leafs are in right now. And I feel weird this year. Like I have felt blindly optimistic, like our friend Gord Stellick the last few years. What have I told you? Basically, since we started the show, I bet on them to win. I bet on them to win this round. They did it once for me. And actually, they didn't even do it for me that year. I actually bet against them to lose that year that they won the first round.
So what are you saying?
Florida. I'm saying that I look at them and whether it's Scott Lawton or a bigger piece like a Braden Shen or Luke Shen comes back, I still look at the bottom of their lineup. And really what it was where we got sidetracked was talking about Max Domi. And I was talking to Steve Dangle about it. And I said, he is a confounding player because, I'm watching that Vegas Leafs game where they were down 5-0 and the opening Vegas goal, like Max is right down the middle with the third man in, and he does nothing to cut him off. Like if you're not going to score,
sure. Absolutely.
If you're not going to score,
tie him up.
You
better for the guy.
And, and your last name's Domi. Like you can't have the last name Domi in a Leaf sweater and not try hard.
Oh, hey, man, I agree with you 1,000%. But are you trying to say
a guy
you
that
don't
would easily
think
get pushed out of the
this
lineup,
team can do anything because of the... Like, what are you trying to say? It's not that here?
Because look at what Florida and Vegas are doing. Vegas just got Riley Smith back.
I know.
Like you can manipulate and get retention from other teams, but of course, when you do that, you have to dole out more picks unless you're the Chicago Blackhawks for some reason. There are ways to do this. The only reason people were going, oh, wouldn't it be neat if Rantanen went to Toronto was because his salary's already been retained once, and then Carolina would do it again for you, reducing it even further. There's ways to do this. Brad Treliving just would have to get very creative. And the only avenue that I would disagree with Gord on a little bit is being willing to pay what some people might look at as inflated prices right now in terms of giving up first round picks or an Easton Cowan or even a Fraser Minton.
Tampa had to give up. Like that was insane. If that was the Leafs, they would have got roasted.
But you know why Tampa can get Julian Breezewald can get away with that?
They have a banner
because they won Stanley Cups.
I get that.
Multiple banners.
I get that.
Multiple banners.
I get that.
And they were aggressive before they got the banners. And then when they got the first one, they doubled down even harder with a similar trade that brought Brandon Hagel to town. And he's a rock star in Canada now after what he did at the Four Nations. And they won again. Oh, and then the next year they went back to the final. My point here is Leafs fans love to rag on the team for not drafting well and how come we don't have any good prospects. And then on the same token, when it comes time with this talented team with this great core, that's the hardest thing to get is that core. They've got that. And then when it comes time to lay some chips down and get involved, everybody gets all precious, including Leafs brass half the time. And they go, oh, but we can't give it. We got to keep it all. What do you mean?
You don't hear me saying that.
No, I know. But the engine of the team, we're told, is built. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Riley, these great goaltenders that have been good. Spend anything to get better and win something. You can't bottom out and make these first-round picks count for much, especially with their scouting staff, when you have players that are this talented in their prime. If somebody calls you and says, I can make your third line way better right now, you got to give me a first-round pick. Or I've got a second-line winger who can score 25 and be an impact player in the playoffs with some size and grit. I need a first-round pick, or I need Fraser Minton. I know you got to pick your poison here and be responsible, but I don't understand this notion of, well, we can't trade Easton Cowan. Why not? You've not won anything. Try. And your rivals, your two biggest division rivals, with Boston notwithstanding, because they're in a tailspin, Tampa and Florida. Already with loads of success. A Florida team's been in the Cup final for 5 straight years, and these two are going out there and hanging their balls off the side of the ship, going, we're doing it again. No first-round picks forever. And the Leafs are like, oh, well, we're going to just... I don't understand, man. It's the difference between sitting down and having a steak dinner and eating SpaghettiOs. And the Leafs eat SpaghettiOs. That's what they do. I like SpaghettiOs. Cold winter day with no one around. Let's have SpaghettiOs and toast. Not in April. I don't know, man. I feel bad for you. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, because 4 years ago you were like, trade Matthew Knies. Like, this guy is not good. He's not proven. Blah 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 blah.
I would have done
earlier this year. You said,
I would have done that.
Can you believe, Clarkey, people were saying to trade Matthew Knies? Those people are idiots. And I felt like saying, well, then you're one, because you were one of the ones that said you should have traded Matthew Knies. Now, I don't think Easton
Very
Cowan...
different context back then.
Why?
Because he literally hadn't skated a game in the NHL. And
neither is Easton Cowan.
Here is that if you can get better now...
I get that, man.
You can't be precious about those guys. Guess what? You're going to trade guys away that end up being good players on other teams. The Washington Capitals traded Philip Forsberg.
That's
I
the way
don't
it happens.
even want to repeat what they traded him for, because it makes me sick. But it doesn't matter because they won a cup. Because then you know what they did? They traded away a 20-goal scoring right winger in Troy Brouwer to bring in TJ Oshie. I don't know what to tell you, brother.
I'm just saying, if you're going to make a deal and you're going to trade that guy, the guy that you bring in better be good and not like a 10-goal scorer.
He better be.
He better be good.
On what the prospect is.
Right.
If you
and I agree with Gord.
Cowan,
I wouldn't bring in Braden Shen for what they want. Like 3 first-round picks and Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan.
That's a little heavy.
That's
give
heavy. Me a break.
I would. Not 3 first-round picks, but if it's a first...
Will you give up 2 picks, Cowan and Minton?
Not both of them. Cowan and Minton have to be you can't give both of them up in one deal. I'll say that. Like, again, you got to be responsible.
Hey, we don't know if either of these guys, the way the Leafs draft, we don't know if either of these guys are going to be any good.
Exactly. Well, the Leafs don't draft.
That's what you said about Matthew Nice.
That's for sure. Yep. And back then, at that time, if something had come along where they could have got, say, a Brandon Hagel type player, I would have traded him. And then you'd have you'd have, as in this example, Brandon Hagel, and Matthew Nice would be on some other team. Let's calm down. He's got 40 points, but you'd have Brandon Hagel. So like I love what Julian Breezeboss said the other day. We'll wrap up in a second here and get to our couch potatoes. He said, I'd rather have a roster full of really good players now.
Yeah, I get it.
Than a bunch of imaginary draft picks.
I get it. Draft schmaft.
And you have to draft schmaft only applies when you're a team that's a hardcore contender with really good players on it. That is, we're told, trying to win a Stanley Cup. The draft becomes important when you start falling off like the 100%. Pittsburgh Penguins.
You're absolutely right. You're right.
Then the draft is an important
this is going to be a 25 to 32 pick.
Yeah. So
100%.
The draft,
I agree with that.
I just sit there. That's my malfunction with it all.
Okay, let's do it. Let's trade. Let's trade 2 first-rounders and Fraser Minton and get Braden Shen. Let's do it.
I wouldn't do that. It's too steep. But if it was one first and
a
Minton,
first, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yes,
I would do that.
That's a far more fair deal.
Even though I don't like Braden Shen, but again, personal. And Gord said it too.
Don't like Tom Wilson either. They'd all love to have him.
Yeah, but the people who don't like Tom Wilson don't know Tom Wilson, never met Tom Wilson.
I know. You have a schism there. I get it. But I look at it and I just look at a guy like that and go, if they go out in the first round again and somebody we're all going to turn around if they don't make a deal like that and go, well, why didn't they trade? Because look, the whole thing is like, oh, well, we gave up this guy and 5 years later, he's a really great star player, maybe on another team. And you go, I can't believe we traded that guy. But then no one looks back and remembers the context of the deal necessarily, because the Leafs are supposed to be going for it right now.
Then let's go for it.
So guess what? You're going to have to give up.
I just hope.
Here's what prospects.
I hope. Let's wrap it up saying this.
Yes.
I just hope that Brad is a really good GM and has something in sight that no one's talked about, and he makes a big splash on Friday. That's what I hope. Gord said it's going to be a little tinkering. I want a big splash. I think they can do it. If they can ever convince, our buddy Ian Doigel, love me for saying this, if they can ever convince Morgan Riley to move on, and
that'd be an off-season thing.
Time. I agree. Hey, maybe Vancouver would want him.
That'd be an off-season thing. But yeah, we'll see. And of course, people will be watching this after the deadline. We're hoping. Yeah, I hate that we have to do this before the deadline.
It's the way it is, folks. It's just the way it is.
It is the way.
We have to appease Adam.
No, we don't. That's not true. He appeases us, if anything. All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back with our couch potatoes next here on Instigating. Back to wrap things up here on another great week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks again to our buddy Gord Stellick, longtime hockey executive, broadcaster.
We go back a long way.
Yeah, you guys really do. You got the nickname and everything, the doctor. Yeah, it's
Dr.
good.
G. Yeah.
Check his book out too, Stellictricity.
Am I in it?
It's a really fun book. I think you are mentioned. I haven't read it in a couple years. I should pull it off. I should pull it off the shelf. Well,
is there an audio book?
I'm not sure if there's an audio book of it.
Okay.
Text him. You got his number. Anyway, it's couch potato time, Clarkey.
It is.
We let you go first all the time. We're gonna do it again. What do you got? My name's
first on the show. That's why I go first.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Here's the deal. I don't want this guy to be a couch potato. Okay.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying he's a couch potato, but please don't be a couch potato.
A bad one.
Adam, put it up. Brad. Brad, don't be sitting on the couch Friday. Please don't be sitting on the couch. Be on the phone. Get the 3 phones going. Get everything involved. Make this team better. Make this team a contender. You're already right now the second best team in the Eastern Conference, tied with Florida, ahead of. Well, they are.
Yeah, for sure. Keep going.
What do you mean? Why are you laughing?
Keep going.
I don't understand why you're laughing.
It's
points
fine.
are points. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, Brad.
You want Brad to be well done, Brad. Kick your feet up for a good job, couch potato.
At 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, he can be the couch potato. How's that? The official, kick it up, get a cigar if he smokes cigars, and say, "I done well."
That's
what I'm hoping.
I've had my feet up all day since 8 a.m. and I did
doing nothing. He cannot do nothing. At 3 o'clock, he can be the couch potato. That's good. That's a good way to put it, Brian.
To quote our friend Steve Dangle.
Yeah.
Brad.
Right? Exactly.
I can't do it like Steve, and I also don't want to blow out anybody's speakers here or my mic.
So, Brad, let's go. Let's go. Make us all proud and make us a champion, please.
Please, God. I mean, it's about time, right?
Why do you laugh when I say they're the second best team in the conference?
Because I don't think they are anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think Tampa and Florida are better than them. I like their rosters better.
I think they're better than the Capitals, but they just have more points. So, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the Leafs are better than the Caps for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so my couch potato, very simple here. Look, we were talking about curling last week. We're going to talk about curling this week because my friends, the Rowdens, their daughter, who's in high school, I think she's a junior in high school. I mean, Ellie's growing up so fast. Ellie Rowden skipped the Norwell Varsity Reds to a CWOSSA high school curling championship. Adam, we've got photos here. We got it all. There's Ellie holding up the trophy. Look at that friggin' trophy. It's almost as tall as Ellie. It's incredible. So the congratulations to my good friend Ellie. Don't forget me when you make the Olympics someday. There's the team there that she skipped.
Don't forget us.
Lost the title.
Right?
Don't forget us.
Well, she'll be on the show.
Ellie, when you get to the Olympics, you gotta hook up the instigating crew. We need good seats. I'm not even saying front row with mom and dad. Just some row. When you're on the Olympic team, please don't forget us. There's the whole team there with
no pressure, Ellie.
No pressure. Well, she doesn't feel pressure because unlike the Maple Leafs, she closed the deal. She won.
Right. There's a plaque.
She got it done. I can definitively say that Ellie and her team are the best local high school curling team around. There's no debate when you hold up a trophy, ladies and gentlemen. Congrats to Ellie. She's the best. I actually stayed with her and her family years ago, just before Kate and I met for a little bit. They were very good to me. And Ellie, it's incredible to see how much she's grown up and just always had the curling bug. Gymnastics and curling were her thing, and the curling seems to be working out. And I know the Cottrells are familiar with her too. They've been out with her before as well. So how about that? Curling championship.
That's awesome.
Clarkey, do you think you could?
How's Gushu doing, by the way?
Goose doing really well. As we record this,
that's who I have.
I think he beat Dunstone. He beat.
I don't think Cooey's doing too well.
My guy Kevin.
Yeah, we'll have to review this next week, Adam. I might actually win something.
We're not going to review next week because we will be off.
Oh, we're off next week. That's why we're off.
Back,
I get it.
When we come back.
Why. I'm about to win something on the show, and Ryan has decided we're not doing a show. Okay.
This guy's such a baby. Anyway, all right.
I'm not a baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week we will not have a show, but we'll be back the week after, and we'll be gearing up for the NHL stretch drive, NFL draft around the corner, the Masters.
Luke Wilson, maybe.
Luke Wilson. Say no to Geppetto Bot Farmers, ladies and gentlemen. Exciting stuff coming up on the show, where you can watch it Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9, except next week with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's Channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. Enjoy your March break, okay? We all need a break. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod, and of course, find the podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. I'm Drury, that's Clarkey. This has been Instigating, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Go Leafs!